Hello, it's Becky here from So Much More, and thanks for joining me for another one of my top fives. Today, I want to give you my top 5 pieces of advice for anybody looking to start out with growing their own food. So if you're starting out anything from a full allotment to just growing food in pots, this would be the best advice that I can give you. So tip number 5, and kind of an obvious one, is to do your research. Now, there are so many books out there, so much information on the internet, there is so much, it can be kind of alarming and definitely overwhelming. But one book that I found that is really, really good is a golden oldie, and it's called Be Your Own Gardening Expert. Now, you can tell that it's quite old by the fact that there's a man smoking a pipe on the front cover, but the information is all the same. It's really concise, it's really easily accessible as information, and it's only really small, so it's only going to take you a couple of days to really get stuck into this, and it's a brilliant way to start. So this is a book that I highly recommend. And anything else that if you're having problems with, you can look up as you're going along. You really don't need to be an expert before you start. But if you're thinking about planting some carrots, maybe do a little bit of research about planting carrots. That kind of thing. So that's tip number 5, do your research. So tip number 4 is understand your land. Now, this one also seems a little bit obvious, but it's surprising how many people decide to skip this stage out. So after you've done your research, you should know a little bit about soil and soil quality and things like acidity, nutrients, etc. You don't need to know too much about it though. What you need to know is what you've got. So if you can identify the soil that you've got in particular, then you can identify what needs to be done to improve that and make specific growing conditions for what you want to grow. The other things to consider are how much water is in the soil, how wet it is, are there other plants around that are going to be taking that moisture away, and how much sun an area gets. Now, when you're considering how much sun an area gets, if you're looking at it in winter, bear in mind that in summer, it's going to be a different situation because other things are going to be growing up all around it. So it's a really good idea to try and take all of these things into account when you are trying to decide what kind of conditions you have and what would grow well in these conditions. Another really good way to understand your conditions would be to talk to other people around you. If you have neighbours that grow vegetables in their gardens, or if you're on an allotment and there are lots of people around you all growing things, then that's a really, really useful resource for anybody who's just getting started. And you can understand what grows well, what doesn't, what the challenges are, what pests you might expect to encounter, and all of those things. So that's my tip number 4, understand your land. So tip number 3 is to decide what it is that you want to grow. Why is it that you'd like to start a vegetable patch? Why did you sign up for an allotment? Those are the kind of things that you really do need to ask yourself. And what I would do personally is write down a list of all of your favourite foods and the things that you particularly like, picking off the trees, bushes, pulling out of the ground, those kind of things, and what you are going to use as a person or as a family. So start off with the things that you really, really love. And if you're growing flowers, again, just grow the things that you like. So by understanding what it is that you want to grow, you can build a framework of how you're going to grow it. So make yourself a list, have fun with the seed catalogue, and enjoy. So tip number 2, make a plan. And when you're doing this, make sure that you understand that plans can change. So draw a picture of the area that you have, decide how you'd like to divide it up, or draw what is already in place, and look at companion planting, what you want to plant, and all of those conditions that we talked about earlier, and make your plan from there. Now take your time with this, do it over the winter whilst things are a little quieter, and just enjoy it. grab yourself a cup of tea, and trust me, sometimes planning can take hours, but it really is the fun bit. And in the summer, you're going to really wish that you had that time back. So that's my tip number 2, make a plan. And finally, tip number 1 is get help. And I don't mean get your head checked for wanting to do this. I mean ask help from anybody who you can get it from. Digging an entire vegetable patch or even just filling up a raised bed is hard work, and if you need help, ask for it. Also, there are always going to be things that pop up in your vegetable patch, even if you have had loads of experience in horticulture that you don't understand. And don't be afraid to ask questions, because everybody does. There are loads of places to go to find help across the internet, books, local people who grow food, all those kinds of things, so don't be afraid to ask. The chances are that half of them haven't seen what's going on either. So I hope you enjoyed this week's top 5, and I'll be back next week for another top 5. Take care, bye!